let's watch this one. Monkey Explain. I think we had watched one of their videos before. The Indonesian Gen Z protest explained using bananas.
This is Uncle Bowo, and he's got a huge problem. See, he's the leader of the Indonesian jungle, and his administration just pushed a law that's a little, say, out of touch. This law, it hands out 3,000 US bananas a month in housing allowances to minister monkeys in Uncle Bowo's cabinet. To put that into perspective for our Western friends, that's 10 times what the average Indonesian monkey earns in an entire year. And this isn't for building schools, fixing roads, or even hitting any goals. It's just for existing in their jobs, on top of their already massive salaries. But regular Indonesian monkeys are confused. See, Uncle Bowo just announced that his team would be adopting austerity measures. In other words, budget cuts meant to fix the jungle's national deficit and fund national programs. So, how exactly does giving 3,000 bananas...
Well, I guess we can stop the video here. I mean, I guess I got my answers, you know. If I didn't know why the Indonesian protest happened, now I know. It's that simple. The government being absolutely terrible, as always. Man.
Bananas per month to already wealthy minister monkeys fall under budget cuts. Austerity for the average monkeys, but luxury for the elite? Just to put that into perspective, for most families, 3,000 US bananas could mean a year's worth of food, school fees, or a down payment on a home. But for the politicians, it's pocket change. Uncle Bowo and his cohorts defend the law as carefully calculated, but regular monkeys see it for what it is, carefully lining the pockets of politicians with more bananas than they'd need. All while the average Indonesian deals with the reality of economic uncertainty, layoffs, and stagnating wages. Naturally, this was like Uncle Bowo pouring industrial amounts of gasoline on an already burning fire, leading to the widespread protests and demonstrations we see today. But how did we get here? This seems to have started when Uncle Bowo's team proposed the real estate allowance, but there's been shady monkey business happening under the table for years. The real estate allowance was just the tip of the iceberg. And to Uncle Bowo, he saw no problem with the perks. Serving the public is no easy gig, right? They absolutely deserved it after all their hard work. But hard work doing what, exactly? You see, Uncle Bowo and his cohorts have been hard at work cutting budgets for healthcare, infrastructure, and family support, while simultaneously granting massive budget injections to the police and armed forces. Everything was going as planned in Uncle Bowo's eyes, and it was time to reward his team for all their efforts in making the jungle a better place. Or so he thought. The reality was that Indonesia's economy, and more importantly, its citizens, were suffering. Far beyond the gated communities and ivory tree houses, average monkeys were struggling to make ends meet. Professionals would find it hard to get ahead in the workplace, and when they did, raises were meager. Fresh graduates and students faced the grim reality of rising youth unemployment. And the cost of living was rising faster than many could handle. Uncle Bowo had promised to help curb these issues with school lunch initiatives guaranteeing meals for all school-going monkeys. In fact, these very promises were what got him in office in the first place.
But that's always what they do, right? I mean, that's literally the same thing every time. It's kind of like in most countries, you know, the kind of politician that run on tax the rich, you know, like thousands before them have done. They don't actually mean it because they know they won't be able to actually do it. It's just because this is like a popular thing to run on, right? And that will get them elected, get them the money of being elected, get them the power, right? But then it's like, it's not even that they don't intend to like go through with it, is that they never intended to. It was just like, you know, promise stuff so that people vote for you. That's all it is, all the time, you know? I mean, there might be a few exceptions here and there in some like president in some country, right? Who actually went through with that promise. But, you know, it's so often like that. Yeah, just, you know, like, you know, that's why it doesn't make you want to engage in politics, because again, like even the people who are saying the good thing, you can't help but look at it sneakily, that they are basically just saying the right thing to get voted in with no real intention to do it, or that once they're in, they won't have the power to do it. That's always what it feels like, you know. It's kind of insane, right? It's kind of insane.
But when it came time to make good on his promise, execution fell flat. Government-provided lunches seemed to cause young monkeys to fall ill, and Uncle Bowo, now under pressure, blamed young monkeys for, quote, not washing their hands before eating. Regular monkeys didn't buy it, and while Uncle Bowo was fumbling around for excuses to justify policy failures, average Indonesians' frustrations simmered further. But this is just one of the many controversies surrounding Uncle Bowo's team and the jungle government at large, ranging from embezzlement to nepotism to corruption.
You know, at the very least, I gotta say, like, props to Indonesia, because you guys actually did something, like some protest and all that, right? I mean, I think for a lot of people right now, we've all been looking at the US and thinking how much will be enough for people to actually, like, really do something about it with, like, all the uncertainty, right? And latest government stupidity when Sumatra is currently facing a huge landslide, and when help from abroad come to my country, you know what happened? They refused it. That's not new too. That's not new. I mean, I feel like we've seen that a lot, right? I always remember, like, in Korea, I don't know if you know about the Seoul disaster. It was like a cruise ship that had, like, mostly students, like 500 students, that basically was sinking, and the country refused help from a bunch of, like, boats over the countries that could have helped, and it basically led to most of the students dying. I feel like there's stories like that all the time, just refusing help for some reason. I don't know. It's kind of stupid. They said we are able to do this, we have a pride, yeah. And then people die, you know, it's always like that. The pride of politicians.
And the proposal of the lavish perks for politicians was the straw that broke the camel's back. And now, monkeys are taking to the streets to protest against the law, leading to widespread demonstrations and protests across the entire jungle. Uncle Bowo now finds himself in hot water. The jungle was burning, the monkeys weren't happy, and were taking to the streets to voice their frustrations. Even in Jakarta, the center of the jungle, protesters flooded the streets and clashed with riot police. Things were spiraling fast, and Uncle Bowo had to think of a solution before the fire grew out of control. Because of the anger, Uncle Bowo put the allowance on hold, while also promising changes to his cabinet. But while Uncle Bowo tried desperately to put out the fire he started, some of his teammates weren't too happy with the way things were going. But let me be clear, they were not happy with Uncle Bowo's response to the crisis, not the plight of the common monkey.
Well, yeah, obviously they're just not happy that they're not actually gonna get their money, right? Which is insane, right? I mean, I'm sure they already get, like, more money than, like, any normal people in the country, and yet they always want more, right? And the crazy thing is that, like, already because of their position as, like, probably, you know, ministers and big politicians, they already must get a lot of money from, like, side stuff, you know, like a lot of them might have, like, business and other, like, source of income, and yet it's not enough. They have to take more money directly from, like, the government and from the people. It's like, seriously, it's the same everywhere. Everywhere the situation is like this.
In their eyes, the protesters had pressured Uncle Bowo to halt the allowance, robbing them of a windfall of bananas. Some minister monkeys even took to social media platforms like BikBok and Banana Book to voice their displeasure, calling the protesters the, quote, dumbest monkeys in the jungle, and to, quote, not compare them to the commoners. Classy. Uncle Bowo caught wind and suspended these minister monkeys, but the damage had been done.
You know, there's a little thing that people invented one time called the guillotine. I feel like it's for people like that. You know? I mean, Marie Antoinette might not have actually have said, let them eat cake, but I think this politician actually said this stuff, right? So, I'm just saying, you know? I mean, I'm just saying.
But Uncle Bowo still wanted to keep his team happy and hatched a sneaky plan. While the housing allowance was put on hold, Uncle Bowo was up to some chicanery behind the scenes and set his sneaky plan into motion. While the jungle burned, he quietly added a line item to the MP's remuneration package that reads, quote, fee for increased intense communication with the masses. What? Isn't communication with the masses part of the job when you're a minister monkey? Weird. But that's not even the worst part. This new add-on to their monthly salaries, It's 4 times the amount which was originally proposed in the real estate allowance.
What the
Uncle
fuck?
Bowo, you cheeky lad. However,
what is cheeky about this? This is completely brain dead. Like, did he think that no one would notice? What the fuck? Are you so stupid? I mean, I guess he just wants to, like, at first it's like he wants to please the protester, but then he wants to please his ministers.
he wasn't sly enough. Regular monkeys caught wind of this and blew it up on social media channels everywhere. You can already imagine how the protesters reacted to this news of Uncle Bowo trying to pull a fast one on the very monkeys that voted him into office in the first place.
Yeah, I'm sure you've experienced it as well. Yeah, I'm sure. Wait, is there no sound, or is it normal that there's no sound? Or is it just me? Huh?
His sneaky
Yeah, okay, I think it's maybe normal.
and were even responsible for a number of tragic deaths. But you might be thinking, how could they be so callous with their fellow country monkey? The simple answer, as always, is bananas. Bananas in the forms of promotions, awards, and dinner parties, thrown by none other than Uncle Bowo and his team. Instead of pushing for restraint and disciplining officers who went too far, the jungle government rewards their behavior and actively incentivizes it, with Uncle Bowo proudly claiming, quote, all officers were promoted, given extraordinary awards for their service in the field, defending the jungle, defending the monkeys, and facing the elements. Now that's some
It's like, I understand you can't please everybody as like the president, the king, or whatever like position is the number one in the country. You can't make everybody happy. But this seems like the dumbest thing to do. Not trying to make the normal people happy, like the 90% majority happy. Like, why is it trying so hard to please the ministers and the cops, you know, which are like the minority? And it seems so stupid, you know.
Major mental gymnastics. For one, Monkey personally would hardly call shooting at civilians and firing tear gas at doctors, defending the jungle. But you do you, Uncle Bowo. And with such preferential treatment from the government, it's no wonder the police are one of the most corrupt institutions in the entire jungle. See, a national poll found that roughly 1 in 3 adult monkeys have had experience with the police asking for bribes or settlement bananas. This has seeped into everything, from paying to get out of traffic offenses, expediting the renewal of licenses, and much, much more.
And Prabhu is also given a reward to police and soldiers who work for people who is facing a natural disaster in Sumatra. I see.
But the question is this: if even the low-ranking beat cops are brazenly corrupt, just how bad is it at the higher levels of the institution? And get this, despite the endemic corruption, they're slated to receive a budget raise compared to last year. And that's the final piece of the puzzle. Like we say on this channel, always follow the bananas, because now we have an idea of why the police are fighting so hard. They need to keep the bananas flowing. But all this mistreatment from both the jungle government and police force has only galvanized regular monkeys, and even as we're working on this video, new protests and demonstrations are still being planned. Indonesians aren't letting up the pressure on Uncle Bowo, but the question is, what now? Well, unfortunately, not much. Look, we like to end these stories with a positive note, but reality is that nothing much has really changed over the...
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, from what I understand and what I've heard, there's been some protests in Indonesia, but it's not enough. I don't want to be that guy, but again, the only thing that would probably change things is like a full-on revolution or like an overthrow of the current government. But then you risk situation that really don't end well, you know, like Myanmar, for example. I mean, that's kind of the thing, right? But like, I feel like the protests are just not enough, right? I mean, even in France right now, you know, over the last couple of years, we've had many big protests, but, you know, they haven't changed anything. You know, I feel like a lot of like countries and governments have gotten used to like peaceful protest, and so since they know that it's just peaceful protest for the most part, they're not very scared, and so that's why they continue their bullshit, because they don't actually think it's gonna really turn into like an overthrow. That's kind of the problem, right? So I think the only solution is that, I mean, because normal protest, just the politicians don't care, you know, they're not scared. That's really what it is. I mean, maybe I'm being too violent saying it like that, but yeah, the only thing that makes sense is to really just take it down, you know. Unfortunately, that's kind of what makes sense to me. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Past few weeks. Other than Uncle Bowo scrapping the bill, all the other problems we talked about in the video are still running rampant. And there's no real sign that things will change for the better. Sure, there's been some lip service and token position swaps within Uncle Bowo's cabinet, but that's pretty much it. And let's not forget the proposed salary increase we talked about earlier. But even despite the bleak situation, regular monkeys still hold on to hope, and many even make light of the situation as best as they can. On social media, you'll see ordinary monkeys posting memes like using the leftover riot shields from the police as replacement doors.
Okay.
People dressing up like ghosts called kuntilanak hanging out on the sign of government buildings. And some even wearing superhero costumes and crowd surfing into a crowd of police. What's truly amazing is that this struggle manages to bridge so many gaps. Marching together against walls of riot police are young Gojek riders, aging Ibus, middle-aged uncles, and university students. But let's not forget the tragic, senseless deaths. Behind every meme, every viral video, remember that there are families grieving loved ones who never came home. Ordinary monkeys who paid the ultimate price just for daring to hope for something better, or were unfortunate victims caught in the crossfire.
Yeah.
And despite the harsh crackdown from police, you'll still see photos of average Indonesians placing flowers in the pockets of officers on duty. Honestly, Monkey has nothing but massive respect for their tenacity. In the face of chaos, violence, and uncertainty, they still find ways to laugh, to help each other, and to keep showing up with hope that tomorrow will be better. Even if it's just a little less bleak than today. That takes heart. And maybe that's the real story here. No matter how many problems the jungle has, it's still their home. They fight for it, they joke about it, and they cry for it. Because at the end of the day, they love it all the same. And that kind of hope, that's something no minister monkeys can ever take away. So the next time you hear about the protests in Indonesia, you'll have an idea of what they're fighting for, and more importantly, why they're fighting so hard. If any monkeys are confused, this is a simple explainer of the protests happening in the Indonesian jungles. Please do not sue Monkey. Let me know what you'd like to see me cover next, and thank you so much for watching.
A little bit about all this, but this was definitely a good, simple breakdown of it, so I know a lot more now, even though I guess I can't say I'm surprised, right? Like, it just comes back to the same with many of the protests that there was, like, in the countries in 2025. It's, most countries are doing the same thing, right? Like, they seem to be so inefficient, they seem corrupt, they seem to only make things worse year by year, you know? I mean, it kind of feels like it's like that in the majority of countries, right? You know, it all feels like, you know, it's really like there isn't much that's gonna happen until things really collapse by a full revolution, right? Like, it's people trying to just protest peacefully, trying to just be, you know, try to trust the process, you know, and yet nothing changed. So it's like, how long can they keep doing this until they're really fed up and eventually there's a full-on take down the government and replace it? I feel like that's really like the only path for most of those countries, right? I don't see anything else, yeah. An armed vehicle trampled an object online, the one who wear the green jacket. I won't ever forget that Afan Kuniawan is a victim. That is sad. Yeah. So yeah, this video is from 2 months ago, but I'm assuming the situation isn't different now, you know. Really good explanation. Okay, well, good luck Indonesia and all the countries right now that are in this situation, yeah. I really feel like, again, like, all those more peaceful protests are really not doing much. And that's really sad because it should, you know. People are making their voice heard, and yet, because it's peaceful, the government are like, they don't give a shit. It's that simple. It's that simple. Hello, Neil. How are you? Can you suggest a video? Yes, you can. I don't really have many suggestions, so don't hesitate. And if anybody else has any videos, don't hesitate too. Otherwise, I don't have much. So if you guys got anything, let me know. How long does the current president have in Indonesia? Until like there's new election? How long until Indonesia next election? Oh, they were in 2024 the last one. So it's recent. How long is the term in Indonesia? How long is the term in Indonesia? 5 years, damn. Okay, so like you have to deal with that guy since until 2029. Well,